bends at the scene of the crime with an angel feather. The professor sits with the most evil book. Is there going to be war between heaven and hell? Well, we'll find out. And he's locked a werewolf in his house, which doesn't seem a very clever thing to do, but there you go. Detective Ben Johnson. The reign over Wolfenstein was the kind that didn't so much as fall as hang in the air. I like Wolfenstein mainly for its name. It's nice to say, isn't it? Wolfenstein. The area itself, well, Wolfenstein is the sort of place that gives the impression it's only just remembered it's in London and is doing its best to catch up. The high street stretches out that particular long receipt for a life you don't, quite remember living, full of questionable bargains, divine samosas and at least 3 barbers that all claim to be original. The air is thick with the scent of frying optimism, second-hand ambition and something that might be jerk chicken, but could also be aftershave. Maybe from the bloke behind you in the queue for Greggs. Ah, Greggs, the great British institution. Wolfenstein doesn't really sleep, it's just occasionally pauses to adjust its Oyster card. It's a neighbourhood that exists somewhere between myth and misprint. Local architecture is best described as Victorian if the Victorians had access to, cheap UPVC and no sense of proportion. The crows here are unionised, the foxes run protection rackets, and even the pigeons have opinions about housing policy. Yeah, Walthamstow is that magical. Well, the pigeons are not too chatty, to be honest. They're just pigeons, but the crows and foxes are very sharp. If London were a living thing, which according to certain prof theories and one deeply confused detective constable it is, then Walthamstow would be the slightly hungover heart, still beating, still beautiful in its own lopsided way and forever muttering, yeah, I'll sort it out tomorrow. It all said its own climate. Tonight, the mighty borough had given us a damp apology for that. A dismal drizzle that nonetheless seeped into your bones and made its home there. My car, a loyal grumbling beast of a machine, a BMW M5 from far too long ago to be seen as drenched by the youth, sidled to a halt behind a row of official vehicles, their blue lights staining the wet pavement like bruises on a sleeping face. Wow. After hanging out with Sue and the prof a lot, I could do that thing of waxing proper lyrical. Me, sounding poetic almost. I wish I had this capability of words when I was trying to woo Bianca Mitchell back at school. Although being able to speak in her presence would have probably been a better start. Poetic me? It must be down to the time spent with the educated, or is it that my police reports are somewhat like Grimm's original fairy tales? Probs both. Wood Street supermarket, the poorly lit plastic sign above its windows was a plea that had gone unanswered, its letters fading into the gloom of the horrific night. I sat for a moment in the sudden silence of the dead engine. It pinked and ticked as it cooled, the ghost of the wiper blade still sweeping across my mind. I need to prepare cause it was always a bit of a mindfuck to walk into these things. By these things I mean my job ain't just about people being dead and stuff, it could be fucking anything in there, literally. Only get asked in by major investigation teams when they've got no idea what the fuck they're looking at, and they hope I do. It's a fat chance most of the time. I just act unsurprised. It seems to mollify them. Jeez, I just used the word mollify. Wow. I wrung the steering wheel with both hands at 10 to 2, as all not good drivers do. It gave me a sense of calm to grip as hard as I could and roll my head on my neck for a little while. I had to look like I knew what I was doing when I was in there, and look like whatever it would be was just a normal day for me. And these things never tended to be normal. They was. I let go of the wheel and went to get my warrant card from inside my pocket. As me being me in this world, I still had to have proper proof of who I was at a scene. I mean, police weren't racist no more. Well, mostly not, but they just knew their perps. I mean, I would have difficulty having proper trust for me if I met me without a warrant card. Hey bruv, I'm a detective, innit? Yeah, whatever, mate. To any casual glance, it was just a standard Metropolitan Police issue card, but if you knew where to look, if you knew how to look, you'd see the other mark, the one that isn't printed but is remembered in the paper, a blue circle pentagram. It was a sigil for those of us who walk the less trodden paths of the city. Members of the department, well, we're all members of that department that doesn't really exist, officially. Sometimes bloody wish it didn't. I wish I could just do simple things like, horrible murders and anti-terrorism stuff. Right, then, aye is aye, I told the quiet inside the car. I clapped my upper and lower jaw together in teeth-chipping rhythm. It's a familiar Richland game from me mum. A strange preparation before stepping into the unknown. You're a guest in someone else's spooky bullshit. Be polite, but don't forget to look under the bed. I conjure myself. The air outside the car was cold. It was like having a wet cloth pressed against my face. A young constable, his face a mask of professional boredom overlaid with sort of unsheer use, stood guarding his allotted stretch of tape. I remember that misery and that boredom. I missed that boredom. Would it be worth the pay cut to go back to that? I showed him the card, the public side, and he lifted the tape for me, which was polite of him. I ducked under, crossing the threshold from the world of rain and traffic and late-night kebab shops into the world of a thing that had happened here. It didn't feel right already. Maybe I'd caught the professor's paranoia, but as he says, always best to think that something's out to get you. He must like Nirvana or something. Unlikely, though. The first thing you notice about a happening like this is the silence. It's not a peaceful silence, it's a silence that has eaten all the other sounds around it that should be there. The air in the supermarket was thick and still, smelling of forgotten vegetables and the sour breath of spoiled milk, and underneath it, like a bass note, played in a distant room was the smell, copper and cloying sweetness, the scent of our blood, but woven through with something that crackled at the edge of perception, the ozone tang of a spent storm and the ancient dusty smell of open graves. Oh, great, I said to the canned beans as my skin goosebumped. My other senses, the ones the SPD trains you to listen to, were humming a low warning tune. There was a resonance here, a stain. A woman in a white suit, a forensic angel of death, stood by the door that led downwards.
DCI Marple is waiting for you,
she said, her voice muffled.
Full kit. It's a bad one.
She pointed at a noddy suit and the other equipment that would be needed to be worn for such events. I nodded. It might be bad for her, but it really might. But bad is a relative term in this work, I find. I mean, I've seen bad. Bad is... A plastic top. The rustling nylon, a solemn dress code for theatre at dead. The mask over my face made the world smaller and breath the loudest thing in the room. The stairs down to the cellar were wooden and old and complaining with every step. It didn't lead to no storage room, led to like an underworld. The temperature dropped with each stage of descent, the air growing heavy, the psychic stench thickening until it was like a super misery. And then I was there. The cellar was brick-lined, a brick-lined belly, a cavern hidden beneath the mundane reality of tin tomatoes and loo roll. The lights the forensic team had brought were too bright, too honest, carving horror out of shadows and refusing to look away. In the centre of the floor was a story written as a language in pain. A vast, intricate design was painted into concrete. I used the word painted loosely. The medium was life, split and systematised. It wore a map of a terrible journey, a constellation of agony. I felt Mars bar and Diet Coke I'd had for breakfast rise in my throat. I didn't know what I saw's name, but I knew its grammar. It was a sentence of imprisonment and suffering. At the 4 points of the compass of pain were the people or the sculptures that had once been people. The report said it was so for them. It was over ours. Their death... Nah, not death. Their destruction... Not really destruction, their defiling. Seeing it, you understood the true meaning of time as a weapon. This was not murder, this was making. Look, well, don't just see, I whispered to myself, a charm against the horror. I had to look past the gratuitous gore disseminated about with what looked like a total lack of pattern. I had to see below the chaos, to the pattern what that chaos had drawn. 4 cells, north, south, east, west, anchors. They were held by cold iron, and where the iron touched the flesh was not bruised but blighted, blackened and crystalline, as if frostbitten by a cold that burns from the inside out. It's a fucking soul siphon, I said, doing my thinking aloud. A soul siphon? They weren't just taking lives, they were drinking fear, harvesting soul, using every sound of its dying scream as it echoed into the void as a source of power. Human souls. Well, they were like magic batteries, and these poor batteries had been proper run down. DC Jane Marple stood like a general on the battlefield of the grotesquely absurd, her white suit pristine, her eyes holding up grim certainty of her headstone. Probably wouldn't recognise her outside one of those suits, but in one she was easy to spot. She saw me and gave me a minute nod, her gaze saying, "This is your department now, thank fuck." But my attention was already wandering room, picking up details that others might have missed. A small table held instruments of art, yeah, art not mere knives, but ancient purposeful things of silver and jet and bone. Who would leave such things? They were proper fine, they were. There were bowls, empty now of everything but memory of herbs and bitter salts. Stubs of black candles stood sentry, their wax frozen in mid-drip, defying gravity. And on the walls, scratched into brick with a nail or a blade, were faint warding signals. They were not to keep people out, they were to keep the attention of the thing they were calling in. "Fuck me," I said to the room. Marple approached.
Ah, Detective Johnson. Your area, I think.
"Sort of," I replied, my mask hid me grim smile. I could see her disapproving look through her mask and ud at, me saying sort of. I think part of me didn't want to say, yeah, it's my area, because that would mean it would become my responsibility to sort this shit out. She stared and waited for a correct answer to be given so that she could pass the whose problem it was book. "Yeah, Gav, it's our thing," I agreed, my voice sounding distant even to me. Our thing shifted the emphasis away from me not being of any use. "See, this is a working, a big one. The design is a focus. These people weren't victims, they were components, batteries. Their suffering was the power."
What for?
She asked, the practical question in a deeply impractical situation. I looked back at central design, feeling its malevolent framing feelings in my teeth. "It's for a door," I said, or a window, or a shout in a place that usually doesn't listen. This much pain, this carefully coursed, it leaves a mark, it pinpoints a place for certain things to find, not nice things neither. I should have thought of what had been attracted to this site. It was not going to be good. It was never good for shit things like this happening. They did something here. They called something up, or they sent something through. I looked once more at blighted flesher at manacles, feeling cold, hollow echo at magic. It were done. The ritual complete. The singers had left, but the song was still hanging in the air, a poisonous melody with a slight warping of reality still evident. I then sought key. It flickered at me, a glorious thing in mess, a glowing bright feather of... Ah, shit. I know what that is. That is angelic, that is. But this is no way to invite an angel, is it? Nah. What was an angel feather doing here? Part of the ritual ingredients, or was one of God's best present here? Nah, I said out loud. Nah.
What?
Marple was behind me. I'll have to ask the Prof Gov, I told her. She raised her head to the ceiling and sighed.
Really? Do you have to? That's going to cost us some overtime money and manpower we just don't have.
Well, I'm afraid this case is no longer who done it. It was what did they do? And the answer is out there somewhere. I've not got the foggiest what it is, but something that really should not be here now is, I told her, not knowing if what I'd said made sense to me, never mind her. Again, I looked at Feather. She joined me to look at it.
What is it? And if you say a feather, then I will personally take great personal joy and then later shame in beating you to death with it, which would take rather a long time because it looks like it's a feather.
She said. Should I just come out with it? Well, she did ask. It's a wing feather from an angel, I told her in all honesty.
Bollocks it is,
she said, snatching it from my hand, before looking at me with just her eyes visible. I nodded. That's proper strong magic, that is, I said, nodding at Feather in her hand. The only part of her that was visible was her eyes, but they were wide and unbelieving. That's one of them, top powerful things in magic you can use, I told her. The eyes changed as she listened and realised that I weren't making shit up. I believed what I was saying, didn't I? She now looked at the feather as though it was an unpinned grenade. I decided not to tell her what it could mean or what it would mean if an actual angel was part of this. Mainly because it would be proper shit if one had been here, and partly because I ain't got a fucking idea what it would mean, except that it would be proper shit. I left her, held it Feather in the middle of the room, and went to leap scene to call Bossman. As I went through the door, forensics team filed back in to get back to doing things that they do. Well, There was one thing I knew. Something new and proper grim was walking the streets tonight, and it had arrived here in a dark beneath supermarket on Wood Street, Walthamstow. Not the most prodigious of places to arrive, is it? And it was probably going to be my job to find it, and to put it back, or make sure it would never sing its terrible song again, which normally meant, I don't know, fucking killing it. Now for the phone call to the Professor.
The Professor. They say evil has no weight. Whoever they are wrong. It has gravity. It bends the air around it like a planet that should not exist. And this morning, my office feels about 10 degrees closer to hell and 10 degrees colder in temperature. I'd been home, partially to get the injured werewolf Will there and safe. Weird if I think about it. I'm putting a psychotic werewolf of all things in my home to keep it safe. Gah, the things I do for the world are... well, you understand. So I got him off to nights, and I left him chez moi. It was most worrying and strange to me. He usually bounced back from his injuries quickly, but he didn't seem to be bouncing back at all from whatever Michael had done to him. I hadn't slept. Not properly. How could I, in fair faith? It would be impossible to sleep for any partially sane man who understood its relevance. Since that parcel had arrived, since it had been dropped off by that cursed courier, brown paper, string, and the faint smell of singed myrrh. No sender, no note. Well, except the note, obviously. Signed Michael, which arrived after its arrival. So having not slept a sleep of angels, I was back in my office at ridiculous o'clock in the morning, thinking thoughts that were terrifying to think, and thinking back to the day before. I don't often feel the urge to pray, but I did. Prayer is a habit for people who believe the universe is listening. I know it's listening. Yes. The truth is, I just don't think it cares, so what's the point? But when I saw his signature, that name, I felt something like fear crawl through my chest and make itself comfortable there. And then she'd arrived. Lucifer. Not as smoke or sulfur, but as she always chooses to appear to me. Beautiful, tired, amused. The kind of beauty that makes you forget what light looks like until it's gone. She'd sat in my chair, crossing one perfect leg over the other, as though she owned the entire university. And me. Which technically she did. Well, the me bit anyway.
I will leave this in your capable hands,
She'd said, and then she had vanished. No smoke, no flash. Just gone. Like a thought you didn't want to lose. That was yesterday, and now, here I am again, staring at the ghastly book. It's open on my desk, like a festering wound. The pages whisper when I look away. They whisper names that don't belong in this century. Names that call back to... I don't even end the sentence in my mind. It was ended in the only way it should be. A physical shudder and silence. The red phone rings. It had to be a red phone for it to fit into the farce of this reality I live in. It's an old landline, corded, reliable, and utterly untraceable. Only certain people ever use this number. Only certain people have this number. Only certain people with certain needs ever phone this number. I looked at it, shocked at first, and then with suspicion. I don't really need any other issues of that kind right at this moment. Should I just ignore it? Who the hell even knows I'm here at this time of the bloody day? Why didn't they just phone my mobile? Oh, bollocks, I shout, knowing there are no students here to hear me. I finally resigned myself to having additional magical bollocks added to the pot, and pick it up. Professor Simon de Montfort, I say. The old formal tone hides the tremor. The habit I once had of lighting a cigarette as I answered the phone comes to mind as I reach for my top drawer, which always had my stock, before remembering I had to quit. Yeah, they can kill you. Well, it's true, they can kill. You. The voice that answers sounds like a wet London pavement, and coincidentally, cigarette smoke. Tired, intelligent, and edged with disbelief.
Prof, it's Ben.
Ah, Ben Johnson, my favourite cynic in the supernatural police department. A man who's seen too much to believe in heaven and too little to rule it out. Detective Johnson, how's the weather in hell? He laughs the way people do when they're trying not to remember something they've seen.
It's wet, sir,
He says.
and full of blood.
Of course it is. This is always the way in Londinium. He tells me about Wood Street, about the supermarket, about the cellar that shouldn't exist beneath it, and the ritual. 4 bodies, 8 hours of their misery. A song made from suffering. And then he tells me the part that makes my stomach turn to stone. A feather of light. Not a metaphor, not a symbol. A real, physical, glowing feather. Must be angelic. The word shit slips out before I can collect it from my tongue. Oh shit, Ben, I say, and I have to sit back in my chair. Are you quite certain?
As certain as I don't want to be honest.
He replies. My mobile pings and I look to open a WhatsApp message to see an image of the... Bollocks. Yes, it is. An angelic feather. I close my eyes and sigh. Ben, for the moment, forgotten as the room spins around me and I reel with the momentousness of this news. It is utterly momentous and changes the entire world. Books slide in their shelves, whispering Latin apologies. This feather, it changes bloody everything.
Prof, you alright?
Brings me back to the phone and to the man at the other end of it. Listen to me carefully, I tell him. If that feather was used in a ritual, any ritual, then it wasn't human magic at all. It's bloody celestial.
Do you mean angelic, right?
I hesitate. Not necessarily. Could be something worse. Something pretending to be divine. I hear Ben sigh.
Oh, why does it always have to be worse? Why can it never mean it's all going to be okay? Why never? Well, it's an angelic feather. It's going to be peachy.
Well, because it always is worse, I want to say. Because when heaven and hell start leaving messages on our doorstep, humanity is usually the postage stamped and the damned courier. Instead, I ask, what condition were the victims in? I have my questions answered by the simple length of the pause before he responds. More time.
Used, innit?
He says, flatly.
They was burnt from inside out, crystallised. You ever seen that soul rot before?
Yes. I taught you what to look for, did I not? I say softly. The worst experience of soul rot I had seen was during the German experiments in the Black Forest back in 42. They'd tried to fuse human will with divine energy. It didn't end well for either side. Remember the Black Forest briefing I gave? Ben didn't answer. I could almost hear his brain through the phone line as it remembered and cogitated. I continued. Whatever happened at the supermarket, it wasn't a summoning. It was a transfer. They didn't call something up. They sent something through. Ben exhaled.
That's what I thought. But the power that was used is actually the air itself. It's like something opened something and didn't close something properly. Don't have the words.
My eyes drifted back to the book. The damned thing seemed to pulse in the corner of my vision. The Liber Maleficarum. It was supposedly edited and put together by a monk who tried to exorcise the devil from his own soul by trying to destroy her. A monk mad enough to invite her in before trying to exile her. The irony of that attempt to expel her, of course, being the fact that she wasn't there. She'd left of her own volition, but only because she wanted to. He hadn't had the power to actually banish or kill such a being. But he had left the recipe for such a ritual. And it was here, in this book, and waiting. If you had the magical ability, if you were an angel or a demon, maybe that could be enough. Fecking Michael, I said, not really meaning to say it out loud.
What's that, Prof? Michael who?
Ben asked. The angel Michael wants me to use that feather to destroy the devil. I paused mid-sentence. Or, more likely, to tear open whatever fragile piece exists between heaven and hell. I told him. Ben, listen very carefully, I said with quiet passion. Listen to me, Ben. Whatever you do, do not bring that feather back to HQ. That would be an utter disaster. Don't log it, don't tag it, don't even tell forensics about it. Lock it away in an iron box and salt the bloody hinges. And for God's sake, Ben, whatever you do, don't bleed near it. There's a pause.
What, you think it's active?
He asks. Active? A rhetorical question. Active? No, Ben, not active. I think it's awake.
Ah, bloody great. Professor, what am I dealing with here?
Another silence. Then softer. I looked down at the book, its pages moving, turning themselves. The script scene glowed faintly gold, like veins under pale skin. It strangely felt like it was listening. Probably was. I might have to go, Ben, I told him hurriedly. The book relaxed. Yes, you heard that right. It relaxed. I don't know what we're dealing with yet, I said, a little perturbed. I need to get the Scooby Gang together to discuss this thing. Will's there at mine, but I need the others. You stay right where you are, Ben. Just be bloody aware of that thing. This needed to be done fast. But if I'm right, and I pray to God that I'm not, then this isn't just about murder. This is about a declaration.
Of what then?
Ben asked. War, I whispered. Michael's tired of playing clean, I think, playing by the rules. I also don't think he's discussed it with his boss.
Ain't the big boss man supposed to be omniscient or what? Is it omniscient or whatever?
Ben asked. I paused. He was right. God was supposed to be, well, if he was, then, well, what the fuck did that mean? If he was... No, I'm unable to process that God might know what was happening. My brain hurt. He knows what's going on. Maybe. I tell Ben. There's static on a quiet line now. Or maybe it's whispering. The sound of wings, far away. Ben clears his throat.
So do I just sit here, do I?
I shut the book. The motion is like slamming a coffin. You keep that feather contained. You trust no one above your rank. No further than that. You trust no one. And you pray, Detective Johnson. Even if you don't believe.
I don't, do I?
He says. Really? I asked. I was bemused by this. He didn't believe, even with all the evidence he'd seen to the contrary in his short career. Then believe in me. I'll find out what Michael's planning. But if I'm right... I lingered while I thought of the right words. Even the complexity of the English language did not offer me the vocabulary to explain this situation satisfactorily. Ben cut into my thoughts, voice hard.
Then if you're right, we're all fucked.
Yes, a perfect summation of the circumstance. Yes, exactly that, I said, strangely excited by his erudition, then instantly saddened by its connotation. Fucked, yes. But at least we'll know how we are fucked, I tell him in a dead tone. The phone line itself clicks dead, leaving the line tone. I sit there, listening to the empty hum of that deathly tone. Outside, the rain starts to fall. Soft at first, then harder, as if the sky itself is washing its hands. I stare at the book as its pages rustle and ripple before they fall open and stop moving. Where it stops, I see it. The title glows faintly, letters shifting like living things. Caput unum de prelio celorum. Chapter 1. On the Wars of Heaven. Some wars never end. They just change battlefields. And this one, it seems, has chosen Wood Street, Walthamstow, of all places. Now, to muster the troops.